Marjorie Taylor Greene and other MAGA Republicans embarrassed themselves, either today on the Fox Propaganda Network or in last week's House Oversight Committee hearing, in their desperate bid to try to sell the American people on the baseless impeachment inquiry into President Biden. And also even as Donald Trump, their cult leader, is at last publicly confronted over a recent report proving that he committed yet another impeachable offense, which was receiving money from China and other foreign powers while he was president. The very sort of thing that they accuse Biden of doing without evidence. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert buttons before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to play. We're going to start with the most recent one. Marjorie Taylor Greene went on the Fox Propaganda Network to talk with, I think, Maria Bartiromo and a couple of others about a variety of topics. And of course, because they can't help themselves, the topic turned to the impeachment of President Biden, and Marjorie Taylor Greene just lied through her teeth to the American people.
That is a complete, unbelievable amount of corruption and breaking the law. We have serious evidence, and the Democrats don't want to admit it. You know, they pitch fits and temper tantrums and claim that we don't have evidence. But the reason why they're doing that is because they're looking at the same evidence that we have with Jamie Raskin and other Democrats on the committee. They know what we're in possession of. They could only dream of having this kind of evidence against President Trump and his family, and they were never able to produce it because all of their attacks were lies.
So, of course, it goes without saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene, like most MAGA Republicans, certainly the ones in Congress, she's stupid and dishonest and intellectually and ethically inferior to every congressional Democrat. Jamie Raskin is better than her, smarter than her. She is no match for him, and she demonstrates it time and time again. Anytime they have any sort of verbal confrontation in any sort of committee hearing, he effortlessly gets the better of her. And what's funny is, we do have the receipts on Donald Trump, at least some of them, right? A fraction of them. But House Democrats recently released a report proving conclusively with the receipts that Donald Trump, while he was president, violated the emoluments clause of the Constitution and engaged in the very sort of corruption that House Republicans are baselessly accusing Biden of. And he received, Trump that is, $8 million in foreign payments during his presidency, the vast majority of which is from China, the very same country that, again, Republicans accuse Biden of corruptly dealing with, even though they have no receipts whatsoever. They produce things like, well, at one point, Joe Biden paid Hunter Biden's truck loan and then was repaid back. And so, yeah, that's basically like coming from China. That's the depth of their arguments, right? So the irony is thick. And as a matter of fact, before we play the other clips pertaining to the potential impeachment of Biden, I do want to say former President Donald Trump was recently confronted. I was shocked to see this. He was heckled at one of his rallies by somebody who read the report and acknowledges its veracity.
And I did three rallies.
You've taken millions.
Thank you, God. That's all right. Go home to mommy. Your mommy's waiting. Go home to mommy.
Now, I'll also point out the contrast. When President Biden is heckled by people and protesters during his speeches, he handles it with infinitely greater grace. He says it's okay, let him talk. He even very often offers to engage with them afterwards if it would help. Of course, Trump can't help himself. He has to insult because the facts are not on his side, whereas the facts usually are on Biden's side, right? And just Biden has thicker skin, period. But it's great to see that Trump is finally being confronted over these facts. Now, again, before I play more clips, I just want to point out that facts are great. We generally have the facts on our side as Democrats, as part of the progressive left. But at the end of the day, perception is what matters most. And because Republicans are so damn good at propaganda, they're able to produce pretty compelling results even without facts on their side. They have relentlessly hammered the president consistently. This is one of two things they've been focused on certainly throughout 2023, and it seems to be the case for 2024 based on how things are going so far. But they just endlessly talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, Burisma, payments, China, truck loan repayments. And what's happened? Well, unfortunately, about 60%, 63% of the American people believe that President Biden has either done something illegal or has at least done something unethical, right? And the reason I bring that up is because it's maddening. It's frustrating. It really is. And this is something that we've talked about in previous episodes, previous videos, because it's a consistent fact of polling. Democrats and we on the left must kill the instinct to say that facts speak for themselves and the truth will set you free. That's not the real world. That's fairy tale nonsense. In the real world, we have to have an equal counterpart to the propaganda machine going on with the Republican Party and Fox News and OAN and Newsmax and Tim Pool and the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder, et cetera and so forth, right? We don't have that. We, again, just silly, naively assume that facts speak for themselves. They don't. They never have. They never will. And it's kind of embarrassing that we've allowed it to get to this point that, you know, the majority of the country believe that President Biden has either done something illegal or unethical with respect to Hunter, even though Republicans have failed to produce any compelling evidence. And you might think, well, maybe things have changed. Maybe they, if you haven't been paying attention, maybe they have produced evidence. I want to play you a clip from last week's House Oversight Committee hearing in which they were trying to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. And one of the Republicans made the mistake in front of Jamie Raskin of saying that they have the evidence. And Jamie Raskin challenges him. And what you're about to see is painfully awkward.
We'll yield my time to Mr. Gosar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Langworthy. You know, to the ranking member, you know, we're cherry picking, and to Mr. Lynch, we're cherry picking because if you go back to those individuals we had as witnesses, they all said there doesn't exist that information now, but there exists the potential to be there. And the inquiry is different than an impeachment. It is a search for that document. So I think we got to be very, very careful when we're on both sides, when we're talking about this, that we give the whole picture, not part of the picture, the whole picture to this.
And what's been found since then?
Well, once again, there's stuff there. So
I'm sorry?
There is stuff there.
There's stuff there?
Yeah.
Can you share it with us?
Because you stack up these random corporations. What are you producing? If I'm a manufacturer, I would do that because I have different businesses accomplishing that. They have nothing to sell. Some paintings, it was access to the president. So now whether that reaches high crimes and misdemeanors, I don't know. I'm not an attorney. But last but not least, I want to make sure that we also get to this, is that you did the process and you stated it.
So he's asked, okay, you said that what is there? Well, there's stuff there. Okay, what stuff? Well, I mean, you know, corporations, and there were like paintings, and Hunter Biden sold access to the president. Well, we know from the testimony of Devin Archer, what Archer, Hunter Biden's former business associate, said is that he believed Hunter was trying to sell the illusion of access to Joe Biden. Okay. Now, again, there's been no evidence whatsoever when Devin Archer was asked this, when other witnesses were asked this, when House Republicans have been asked this time and time again. Okay, if what you say is true, what did Joe Biden do in exchange for this access? And they can't point to a single policy whatsoever that was changed or any sort of official action that was undertaken. So that's even if you take their arguments at face value at the highest possible level, which of course, not only are you under no obligation to do that, I would argue you are actually under obligation to not take House Republicans at their word, given that House Republicans are morally inferior liars. It also reminds me of an exchange back in December in which the House Rules Committee debated the resolution to bring the impeachment inquiry into President Biden into being in the first place. This was an iconic moment between a Democrat, last name Neguse, and a Republican whose last name I think is Rauschenthaler. Just iconic moment.
What is the specific constitutional crime that you're investigating?
Well, we're having an inquiry, so we can do an investigation and control the production of witnesses.
And what is the crime you're investigating?
And documents. High crimes, misdemeanors, and bribery.
What high crime and misdemeanor are you investigating?
Look, I will, once I get time, I will explain what we're looking at, and I will make the equivalency.
No, I'm just asking you for
the last impeachment.
Okay, so what I'm
That never happened. He never came back and said this is the specific, high crime, the specific misdemeanor, the specific bribery in question. It's just it's a fishing expedition, and they've demonstrated it time and time again. So anyway, I think it's hilarious that once again, Republicans, you just give them a camera. You give them a camera and you ask them a question, at the very least, when it comes to potentially impeaching the president. And they constantly step on rakes. It's hilarious, right? It's also dangerous because for whatever reason, they are really, really good at propagandizing to not only their base, but also a disturbing number of independents, right? And certainly Democrats are on fire from time to time rebutting these facts. But again, right now, according to polling, the majority of the country believes that President Biden either did something illegal or at the very least something unethical. And that's about 60% too high based on the amount of evidence Republicans have offered, which is none, which once again makes the case, and I hope it's seared into your brain. Facts don't speak for themselves. They never have. They never will. Democrats, they're surrogates. You and I, we have an obligation to relentlessly pound it in when we have the facts on our side and when Republicans don't. Take nothing for granted, particularly as we're heading into the elections. I mean, we're already there, right? We're 10 months, 11 months away from the election. We can take nothing for granted. And I hope Democrats understand that. Let me know what you think in the comments.